My name's Pete Woods. You're watching Hexham TV. Who are you?
I'm Louise Bradley. I'm an artist. Work from a studio in the Ouseburn in Newcastle upon Tyne, and I make paintings, prints, drawings, and other interesting objects.
So, how would you describe the work that you produce, Louise?
Currently, I've been working a lot with the seasons. This year especially, I think a lot of people have noticed nature a lot more. Maybe they've had a chance to slow down, not be travelling so much. I always work with nature, but I work particularly with flowers at the moment and plants. So I grow things in my garden and I draw them. So I've noticed I have a year of pictures from blossom in the spring, and then I've got a lot more going on in the summer. And then towards autumn, the dahlias flower, and I go to Halls of Heddon, Heddon on the Wall, which is an amazing specialist nursery. So they grow loads of different varieties of dahlias and chrysanthemums, but especially dahlias. So they have fields full of these amazing colours. And I go there, buy my dahlias, cut flowers, and then I paint them, draw them, print with them, all sorts of things. So I've noticed the last few years I've been working much more with locally grown flowers. So either from my own garden or from other people. So I work with a grower called Philippa Hodkinson, and she's in the depths of wild Northumberland, and she grows really hardy, really unusual flowers. And she sells flowers. People in Hexham actually might know her flowers because she sells them from the market during the summer.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, so I use those, and then I use acrylic paint usually, and screen printing.
So how did you become an artist and a printmaker? What's your story?
Well, I went to art college. So after I left school, as soon as I left school, it's always something I've loved doing. It's that thing I could lose myself really in drawing and painting just from an early age. My mum was extremely creative person. She painted, potted, sewed, tried everything, and I think that's rubbed off a bit on me and my family. So it was always around. She was an illustrator, illustrated children's books. So just having that background, I think, made it really normal. It was just every day. This is what you did. You made stuff. So so I went to Newcastle Poly, it was at that point, did a fine art degree there. And it's hard actually becoming a sort of self-employed professional artist as soon as you leave college. I've had a lot of different interesting jobs, as most artists have, that aren't necessarily arty. And then, I just been selling work really, and as well as teaching. So I also work as an artist facilitator, or an artist in learning. So I teach freelance. I work with Baltic and Gateshead. There are a team of us who work there, and we work with schools, community groups, adults, all sorts of groups, either at Baltic in their studio or out in schools and colleges. So a bit of a travelling job, that one. So I do that as well. I started off teaching life drawing and trained to teach adults. So it's both, my studio practice, which is where I am now, and then my sort of artist facilitator, which they all kind of join up. I think it's part of being an artist.
How important is it to be with other artists in somewhere like Ouseburn and
oh, it's great.
Which is great for artist studios and things.
Well, where I am is quite unusual. So the address of the building is 36 Lime Street. It's Ouseburn Warehouse. So it's a huge John Dobson designed Grade 2 listed building. And within the walls of this address, there are actually quite a lot of different businesses. So 36 Lime Street Limited is the name of our studios, which is most of it, it's most of the space. So there's 5 floors here of makers. So we've got painters, jewelers, printmakers, musicians, furniture makers, can't think, everything. You know, we've got all kinds of people here. The people that come here tend to be quite cooperative in nature because we run the building ourselves. And it's been going over 30 years, must be 35, getting on for now. So we put time into making it work. So it's different from just renting a space. You know, you don't just, it's not like you rent a little studio and you go in, do your work and leave. We're all quite involved in the building. We're in a fantastic location. If people know the Ouseburn, it's like a little bit of nature really in the middle of Newcastle. It's down in the valley, so it's a bit cut off from the level. So it's down sea level because we've got the Ouseburn itself coming from the Tyne. And then a bit further up Jesmond Dean and up towards Gosforth. So it's great being here. We share stuff, so you know, you can collaborate with other members. So for example, I'm going to be working with Teresa Easton later this week, who's a printmaker, or she's an artist. She uses print. She's an expertise. She's amazing. She's going to show me how to use letterpress. So I'm going to make some prints with her. She's actually right next door behind that wall. But, you know, so someone who makes furniture, we've got Michael, who is Michael Armstrong, who makes the most beautiful furniture. But he'll happily help you cut some wood or, you know, fix something. It's that sort of sharing community here. So it's, you know, it can be hard because we're all artists and makers and we're trying to do jobs like being accountants and business managers and marketing experts. But, you know, we manage, and it's been going such a long time. I think, you know, it's okay.
Yeah. So I can see some of your wonderful work on the wall behind you, Louise, but I know you've got some examples that you can hold up towards the screen there, just so people can get an idea of the sort of work that you've been doing recently.
Yeah, a bit closer. So let's have a look. I've got some French tulips here. So this is acrylic painted on a panel. It's quite a dark painting, this one, but the colour really sort of shows up against this dark background. So I paint fairly quickly, you know, it's quite, and I always paint from life. So I have the flowers right in front of me when I work. So they kind of move because they move with the light. And of course, once they're cut, they're kind of dying. You know? So they're alive, they're still alive. And some of them actually still grow and bloom, but they're also kind of fading. So I'm interested in that about them. And I've got another one here, which is chrysanthemums, sort of spider chrysanthemums. So they're around at the moment, actually. So this is quite a detailed, I'll hold it in a bit.
It's like a firework going off, or a number of fireworks going off, isn't it?
Yeah, some people have said that, you know, and that's what I love about them. I think the shape of a flower to me is what inspires me. And obviously I love the colour. I'm really feed on colour as well, but there's something about the silhouettes of flowers that interest me. And then this is just a solo dahlia. So just give you a scale, there's my hand. So it's quite big, but a lot of these flowers are massive, the dahlias. Some are bigger than my head, you know, so they're quite almost ridiculous flowers, dahlias. So they're what I work on quite a lot. And you can see more behind me.
How long would it take you to do one of those paintings that you've just shown us as an example?
Oh, I'd probably work on something like this one over a couple of days. You can't really work on them for much longer with flowers like this because they are changing too much. So yeah, probably a couple of days. And so, you know, sometimes things are repainted quite a lot and painted over, and it's nice when it goes well first time. Yeah, and some things maybe just take a few hours.
Yes. And what's the process then? What's the preparation that you need to do before you start your painting?
Well, practically, I have to make sure that the base that I paint on is fine. So I tend to buy things ready-made a lot of the time. So I can buy a panel like this one, which is a ready-made panel, and there's something called gesso, which is painted on, which is white. It gives a really smooth surface, but also like a clingy surface, if that makes sense. So almost chalky. So the paint will kind of grab onto that surface. But also I might be stretching my own canvases, and then I need to cover those with something called size, which seals them. So the paint doesn't go through the canvas at all. It stays on one side. And then I would put some kind of ground on there, which would be probably gesso. So there's quite a lot goes on beforehand.
Yeah.
And once the paintings are finished, they're varnished, and you have to kind of wait for the paint to dry before you can do that. Yeah. So they're the sort of practical bits.
And as well as your studio, where have you exhibited your work?
Well, I say I used to do, this year hasn't happened, art fairs. So Brighton Art Fair, Print Fest, which is in Ouseburn in Cumbria, which is just for printmaking. So then I wouldn't be taking paintings, because I also work and make screen prints and woodcuts. I've got some work at the Pineapple Gallery, which is in Bishop Auckland. I always get Bishop Auckland and Barnard Castle mixed up, but I don't anymore, really. Yeah, so, and just, you know, other galleries when they have certain exhibitions on, and often open studio events here. Yeah. Which this year are not happening.
No, it's a tough time for many makers and artists at the moment, isn't it?
It's been a very different year. I'm trying not to be, you know, try to be optimistic, and you've just kind of moved online. So I've been selling through Instagram a lot, which there's an artist called Matthew Burrows set up this scheme called Artist Support Pledge, whereby you sell your work for no more than £200, and it's international, so it could be 200 euros, dollars, something. And when you reach £1,000 worth of sales, your pledge is that you spend £200 on another artist's work who's doing the pledge. And it's taken off. The artist, it was either, I think he received an OBE, or it might be an MBE this year. It's been incredible. So it's like, you know, it's based on trust, because no one's going to make you spend that £200. But you just do, you know. I think artists understand we all support each other. So it creates this sort of small economy based on art and exchange. And I've bought some amazing artwork, which I would never have bought otherwise. So that's been brilliant.
Just give me the name of that scheme again.
Artist Support Pledge.
Okay, that sounds really good. Yeah, I've not heard of that.
So I've got a shop, an online shop. And some of the things I sell on my shop are through the Artist Support Pledge. And that's quite linked with my Instagram page. So, you know, hopefully they lead to another. So I think artists and makers have really made a push this year to go online. Like everyone else has, you know, everyone's had their Zoom meetings and their Microsoft Teams. And, you know, we've all got sort of square eyes, as we used to say.
Tell me, Louise, what do you get from teaching other people, particularly young people in schools or at the Baltic perhaps? What do you get from seeing other people create as a result of you teaching them?
Oh, it is really rewarding, and that sort of sounds like a cliche, but if I can help someone develop their not even necessarily a skill, but just develop their wish to make something. They feel like they've succeeded. And often I'll find, if I'm working with children, especially sort of, well, no, all ages really, school age children, might often be the children who don't really get on academically in class, or perhaps their behaviour is a bit disruptive, or, you know, this all sorts of stuff going on at school. But take them out of there, put them in a new context, and they can be themselves again, start from scratch. You know, they've got a clean slate. They're working with me, they've never met me before, and they can just absolutely blossom, you know, and make something incredible. So that's a kind of really rewarding context. I think schools are really under pressure to work with a curriculum. STEM, my motto is STEAM, not STEM. Bring the art in, because it's more than making a nice, pretty picture. You know, art teaches you so much about making decisions, about sort of how to use what you might consider a failure and make it into a strength, confidence building. It doesn't really matter what you make in the end, it's the process, and it's learning how to use tools. And I think this day and age, children are less in general making stuff with their hands. You know, they're using their fingers, but they might be on, you know, a Nintendo Switch or a keyboard or a phone, and they're not learning how to maneuver stuff, like real stuff. So, you know, I like to kind of bring the stuff in.
That's really good, and it's great to give give anybody at any age an opportunity to just create something, and to actually, you know, go through that process, as you say, and even if it just pleases them and no one else, you know, that's important. Yeah,
and I think a lot of adults during sort of the various lockdowns this year have discovered that there's a lot of pleasure in making. It's quite meditative. It takes you away, you know, it takes your brain away from your worries, because it's been a very, you know, difficult year for everybody. Everyone's life has been affected by this pandemic. So I think people, you know, is it painting, yoga, there are a few things that everyone's sort of started to do. And you go, well, and enjoy nature. And you go, well, I'm just so lucky that I do that anyway in my everyday, you know. So if I can help people do that, it's great. I mean, I'm working a new job I've got this year, which came about because of the pandemic, is I'm working online with a charity. So I'm teaching online, and the charity is Colostomy U.K, and they have ostomates, active ostomates. So they've been doing meditation online, but I'm doing the art. So I'm working with adults who are all around the country. So we've got people from southern counties, we've got people from Highlands, and I meet them on screen, and we just have a little art session. So I'm on to my sort of 4th series of that, and I'm doing a live event with them actually on I can't remember the date, December, there's something on Facebook that I should know, which is a little bit of teaching. So, you know, that's a fundraiser for them. So that's been great, and that's a job I just wouldn't have done otherwise. No. So I'm learning. I've got, you know, it's a steep learning curve, how to make films and film myself making stuff. So yeah, we've all been doing.
We're all learning. Now I know that as well as the examples that you have behind you, that you've also produced some other work which is you know, different in nature. Perhaps you could just show me an example of, or an example or two of the other work that you've produced.
Of course, yeah. So I think what you can see behind me is what I've been making mostly recently, but I'll just have to move some things around a bit. But I mean, both these things are still plant related. This one, I'm hoping it will show okay with it because it's glazed. It comes from a drawing. Yeah, it's okay. It's a bit reflective. But so I drew some flowers, but without looking. So to take my practice away from being too sort of hyper realistic photographic, which it's not that important to me. I do kind of automatic drawing. So I'm still looking at a plant or a flower, but I'm not looking at the paper.
Oh, right.
You get this really lovely sort of free line. And it's just really what you're seeing, you know, you're looking and your pencil kind of follows your eyes. But then with this one, I then cut it out. So this is a paper cut. It's not print. A lot of people think it's printed, but the paper cut is like a doily, I suppose, you know, and it's framed between two sheets of glass. It's really hard to see, it's so reflective, but it's kind of floating in the frame.
It's really hard to cut that out, though.
It's physically actually quite hard. Yeah. If you imagine cutting with a knife, you tend to only make a few cuts, don't you? But this is, you know, hundreds. So you actually get a bit of RSI shoulder. Be careful. But it's quite, you know, it's nice. You're kind of redrawing your drawing with a knife. And then, so yeah, I'd like to sort of say that I don't just paint flowers, although there's nothing wrong with that. I do a lot of other stuff as well. And then this is related to the colours of the flowers that were growing in my garden on summer solstice this year. So it's flower related, but it's, you know, it's still a painting, and it's painted on a cigar press. So there are two parts of this. I just wheel myself over. Yeah, like my wheelie chair. So these two would have cigars pressed in them. So they would, I'm not going to touch them together because I might break it, but they sort of clamp in and shape your cigar. So I've taken this. So there's, I don't know, I think about 96 different colours in here.
Wow.
So what I used to record them, I was quite systematic in this one, and I, you know, you make your own rules up when you're an artist. So I use this horticultural colour chart. So this is just one page, and this is sort of from the 30s or 40s, I think, and identify the colour of the plant. So, and then I've got a coded number on there, and that'll take me to my page of what the flower actually was. I think this might have been wallflower. So then I've got this exact colour, because I can't really paint those in the garden. So then I've got to, you know, I've got my reference. And taking a photo of flowers doesn't work because the camera interprets colours. You know what it's like when the photos aren't true. So I know that this is exactly the colour, and then I'll try to reproduce that on my artwork. So I think it's here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's how, yeah, it's not just some random colours. There's quite a lot gone into those pieces.
So Louise, I've put details of your website online, but where else can people see your work or get in touch with you?
They can actually come to the studio. So even during lockdown, we're open for business. We've got really good safe procedures in place here. So you'd be wearing a mask, you would sign in, you would sanitize your hands, but you can only come in one person at a time by appointment. So my contact details will be on my website. You can contact me. Usually in this weekend coming up, we would have open studios. We'd have over 2,000 people coming in. You know, it'd be really happy, friendly event, but that is off. So, but it doesn't stop you coming. So if you like, look at my work, but what you're interested in maybe isn't in my shop online, or I've got a lot of screen prints in a browser. You know, you might want something you've seen before even, and it's not in my shop. So you can actually visit in person and have a look.
Well, Louise, it's been lovely to talk to you this morning and to see examples of your work. I you know, personally, I really love the flowers on the, you know, the bright flowers on the dark backgrounds. I think they're fabulous. So keep doing those, because they're really, really fabulous, as all your work is.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a winter showcase online at the moment here at these studios. You know, it directs you to other makers online shops. You know, it's all we could do this year. So thank you for having me on Hexham TV. It's been good.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, Louise, and thanks very much for coming on to Hexham TV this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching, and if you've got an idea about something you'd like to talk about live on Hexham TV, then please do get in touch via Hexham TV Facebook or Twitter feeds. Have a good day, everybody.